Hello there. Today I'm continuing my look at the wines of Vignobles Rollet. And the wine I'm looking at today is Chateau Fourney. Again, this is Saint Emilion Grand Cru. And Chateau Fourney is a 23 hectare property, which I think is the largest of Vignobles Rollet's estates. The estate was acquired in 1955 by the current proprietor Hélène's father, Jean-Pierre, with a piece of what was really quite unfortunate timing. The estate is in Saint Emilion, which is about 4 or 5 kilometres southwest of the town of Saint Emilion, and it's on the flat plains south of Saint Emilion. And having acquired the estate in 1955, there was a massive frost in 1956, and the vineyards were pretty much wiped out by this frost and required completely replanting. As a result, Jean-Pierre Rollet had to go back into employment and work for somebody else for 5 years while the vineyards were being replanted. Unlike the rest of Vignobles Rollet's properties, the soils here contain much less clay. Although they say they're silty and siliceous, I think the silica ensures that they are better draining than some of their other properties. There is still the limestone subsoil that's typical for this region. I'm assuming the soil's more free draining here, because I have seen some notes suggesting that in some years there's up to 10% of Cabernet Sauvignon in Chateau Fourney, which is not the case with the other properties belonging to Vignobles Rollet. The vineyards again are planted predominantly with Merlot, as you'd expect in Saint Emilion. The properties are Saint Emilion Grand Cru, and again the family have put into place quite a number of improvements to try and drive quality here forwards. In 2019, they gained HVE3 certification, a sustainability certification for the practices in the vineyard. I mean, for instance, they don't use chemical fertilizers here. They're not strictly organic, but I guess they're working along those sort of lines. Michel Roland has been engaged as a consultant here, and they still work with his consultancy. Again, planting density is at 5,500 vines per hectare, so not high density, but certainly not low density. Yields are about 45 hectolitres per hectare, which is lower than the minimum for Saint Emilion Grand Cru, so they're going further than the not particularly stringent guidelines that the appellation has. Average vine age is a good age, it's 35 years. 2022 was a dry vintage, giving good ripeness to the fruit. There was no rainfall at all in May, July, August, September or October, so it was simply the existing water table and that rain which fell in June that enabled the plants to remain active throughout the season until harvest. I believe harvest is done with machine, but they do say they're using optical sorters at grape reception, so that will take out any grapes that are damaged, underripe, undersized, and that should make quite a big difference to quality. There's a note suggesting that freeze maceration went on here. If I understand it correctly, that's a question of freezing the grapes to a stage where those cells containing colours and flavours rupture and helping their release into the macerating wine. The grapes are then warmed up and they undergo fermentation in temperature-controlled concrete tanks. Each one of those tanks is evidently equipped with micro-oxygenation equipment, which allows, if necessary, the passing of a fine bead of oxygen through the wine as it's maturing to allow tannins to polymerize, to be smoother, rounder and richer. It helps to stabilize them and to stabilize colour as well again. The wine aged in French oak barrels, 50% of which were new and the balance were second fill barrels. I'm expecting to see a little oak influence here. I'm also expecting to see some lovely, fine, rounded tannins. So let's have a look at the wine, shall we? I'll start by saying that that's virtually opaque. It's a black ruby colour with purple hints at the rim. There's good pigmentation here. The wine has 14% alcohol and it's quite readily forming tears. They're quite slow to fall down the glass, but it's a relatively viscous wine. So let's see what we make of the aroma, shall we? On the nose, you've got quite nice dark plums and black plum, dams and bullace aromas. They're a little restrained. There are touches of sort of a more savoury, maybe forest floor note, maybe cedary notes just over the top of that, maybe slightly dusty notes. Fairly classic Bordeaux aromas. So let's have a taste. Chateau Fourney comes across as being quite well structured, not completely drying or astringent. There's a grainy tannin that's supported by some ripe black damson fruit that sort of morphs into a sort of more licoricey richness. There's a real concentration of fruit in this. That's actually really well married with some oak notes. There are tiny hints of cedar, perhaps a little touch of graphite, but they're not standing out. They are well integrated here. There is a sort of slightly drying grip. The acidity is fresh enough that it's actually leaving sort of lovely, juicy, almost black cherry, maybe more blueberry sort of notes around the edges of my mouth. The combination of the fine tannins and the fresh acidity are leaving me salivating. And actually that's one of the nice things about this, that the freshness is giving the wine great length. The wine has some complexity. It's got a nice depth and a concentration. There's not a huge amount of development of the flavours on the finish, but that concentration runs to the finish and those juicy black fruit remain there because of the good acidity. I think this is a step up from the previous wine I've tried from Vignobles Rollet, the Chateau Roc St Michel. It has more concentration and a little complexity. Provided it's reasonably priced, I think this could be a very good buy. So that you can make that judgment, I'll leave a link in the notes below to the Wine Searcher webpage for this vintage of this wine, and you can see if it's available near you and what its pricing is. If you'd like to watch more of these videos, do please consider signing up and subscribing to our channel. It would be great to have your support there. And also that way you can set yourself an alert and you can be notified every time we publish a new tasting. If you have enjoyed the tasting, please press the like button. That would really help the algorithm there. If you have friends you think might like to watch the video, please do pass it on to them. We would very much appreciate your endorsement in that way. And if you have any comments, do please pop them in the comments box below. It would be great to hear what you think about the wines we're looking at, the tastings we're doing, or anything else that relates to that. Thank you so much for joining us, and I do hope you'll make some time to come and join us in the near future for another tasting. Until then, bye for now.